yourself the goal.
Can I run it all? You see that? Driving, digging, determination. That defines all the stuff I've been through.
They shouldn't have given you Ashy Bloke's YouTube.
Cursed be the ground, for our sake. Both thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for us. For out of the ground we were taken, for the dust we are. And to the dust we shall return.
I'm done with life, and it's all Jermaine's fault. It's always Jermaine's fault. I'm done.
All right, good people. All right, good people. Punching the clock today. Okay, it should be a decent one. It's something that's hot right now. It's something that we talked about. We talked about adolescence. About I think I made a pre-recorded about letting the dust is spreading, right? And the tar baby, and how every time they mention us, it explodes. I remember we were talking about the black male political independence, right? And it kind of festered and bubbled up until Tiffany Cross mentioned Tariq Nasheed and Kevin Samuels on video, right? And all of a sudden, the Ice Cube effect exploded. And people thought it was over until the next cycle, okay, which was the Trump cycle. And then the Manosphere and the Black Manosphere and black men all of a sudden just became the talk of the town. All right, what are we going to do with the men? What do the men want? So the thing is that every time they mention us, you know, whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter, right? What does it say? It doesn't matter what they say about you as long as they spell your name right. Same thing with the tar baby. Same thing with the Manosphere. Same thing with the black Manosphere. Passport bros. Everything they mentioned. The 80-20 rule. Okay, people, whether they agree or disagree, if it's mentioned, people have to go find out what it is. And when they find out what it is, then it starts to stick to them, and then it starts to follow them. So that's what we're going to go through today. What's up, Al? A dusty afternoon, yes, sir. All right, let's go ahead and start at the top. Welcome some people. Trail, what's going on? Batting first. Oh, Instant Media batting second on beaming in on Transporter Pad 7 with his bat. Adrix batting third. Royal Priest in his cleanup. Most Fet, what's happening? Oh yeah, and it's been real, man. That's Snowman batting sixth. Yeah, just don't let the ball roll through your legs. That's all. And Prince, what's going on? Dusty Jones. Hey, Dr. Dunbar, Dr. Goodbar, what's going on? And to the desk we shall return. Can't outrun a dog, though. That's one thing about the Manosphere. Can't outrun a dog. Quentin, what's going on? Lavaris, what's going on? Aspiring Dusty Cloud Engineer checking in. Dusty Cloud Ninja, sir. We're not engineers. You're Clusty Cloud Ninjas. Y'all work magic. Tunnel Runner, what's happening? Tunnel Runner and his, Tunnel Runner letting his nuts swing. Boy, he got that Latina. Okay. He got that blonde Latina in Atlanta, man. Just don't go outside Atlanta, man, with your girl. Independent POV, what's going on? Yeah, it's getting real. A lot more dead each month. Yep. Yep. It is. It's gonna get real. It's gonna get worse, man. We're just hearing about it. That's all. Shannon Moore, what's happening? Ignatz, what's going on? You losing? Hope you will. For the Mandela art, it's better to do it inside. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. All you have to do is do it. Okay. It'll connect. It doesn't matter where you do it. Martin Muhammad, what's going on? All right, coming through, coming through. Ricky, what's happening? AL, what's up? Afro Manosphere, what's going on? Let's see. Who we got. Everybody's talking to each other. There's Mongo, the Woo Man. What's happening? Derek, what's happening? Ilias, what's happening? I got the notification 30 seconds ago. Y'all been in here since noon. Not quite. See what you got. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Captain Obvious, Michael L. There's Don Calypso. What's up? Yeah, I started to do that one today about Medicare and Chinese medicine, the medical advances in China, and how you can bring down the cost if you want to. But I'll do that one tomorrow. Gundam, what's going on? Dave Tao, what's going on? One of my day ones. Not Romaine, what's going on? Ricky, what's happening? Paul, what's up? I've been waiting on this one. The response is so-called a hit piece. It doesn't matter, man. It's like when you punch at the tar baby, guess what happens? It sticks to you. Okay, Greg, what's going on? There's Toya with the apple. What's going on? Mr. Snazzy, what's happening? NPRG, what's going on? Naima, what's happening? Pragmatic Prime, what's going on? Craig, what's up? Tech Guy, what's going on? EAW, what's going on? Willie R, what's going on? Said Michael Ross, what's going on? The mainstream media can have all the op-eds they want. The fire has already spread. It's no way to control it. Oh yeah, I call it escape gravity, escape velocity. Right, we're outside the gravity. They can't control, can't bring it back. What's going on, brother Art? Inspired Truth, Big Trick, what's happening? Hey, they bailed your boy out of jail, so all's good. Poseidon, what's happening? Ray, there's Dr. Thunder, what's going on? Dr. Thunder did something on this morning. Let's see what else we got. DM, what's happening? Kinley Jink, what's going on? Joe Breezy, what's happening? The last video you did with the feminist was classic. Her realizing that what they asked for wasn't what they wanted. Yes, sir. We knew that though. Black money and power. Phyllis Schlafly tried to tell them that back in 1976, but they wouldn't listen. There's the maestro. Let's see who else we got. Ray. Andre. Oh, big. What's going on, little Maple Leaf? Horowitz. What's going on? This is my favorite white girl, Maggie. What's happening? I still think I think Maggie's still Mark Cross, the economist. That's where she make all her money, and she just changes clothes and cuts her hair, and she shows up. Ron Brown, what's going on? All Star G. What the F? Yeah, rest in peace. Yeah, rest in peace, little brother. Salted Dean, what's going on? Dusty PhD. Have you done one on this one yet, Dusty? Eric O. Yeah, we saw Tiffany Cross. Yeah, she's irrelevant. Yeah. Denny Sintai. Is it Denny? What's going on? Is it Denny or deny? Dub Will, what's happening? Scorpion Black. Hard Bottom. Hey, where you been, Hard Bottom Shoes? The lead blockchain developer, what's going on? One of my Dusty Ninjas, what's going on? Knight and the Bishop. Dusty Hotep, what's going on? Dominic D, what's going on? I heard Majority Report discuss this clip earlier today. The distinction between you and them ought to be interesting. I haven't heard them. I think it's a good thing, personally. 309K? Okay. Call me Skrilla. I don't think you may understand when the mainstream was trying to stop the Manosphere was when they were shadow banning and blocking Manosphere content. Yep. Now they're trying to use different tactics now. Michael Watson, what's happening? Kay. What I think of Dr. T show? Well, I've been knowing it because we talk all the time. So he's right. Thanos was right. I feel like you're one of few standing up for the male spaces. The toxic masculinity is an overcorrection. Some messages can't be. No, you can't. I heard that, Maggie. I heard that. I heard that, Maggie. 100%. Kelvin, what's up? IBMOR, what's going on? But Mark Frost does look just like you, man. He could be like your twin brother. Willie Boylan, what's going on? Dave, what's up, Dave Tao? Steph, Van Rawls, what's going on? Van Rawls, what's going on? Age of Machines, Mr. J. Matt, Babu, what's going on? Sir Him, Minnesota Money, TJ, in AK, okay. Oh, with an AK, okay. You must be in Texas. Minnesota Money, what's going on? And I think that's it. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and show the piece first, okay? Let's show the hit piece first, and then we will get into then we'll get into the whatchamacallit. We'll get into the particulars, okay? Because a lot of people have done a lot of reaction on it. That's what I just had it. Okay. They always say I dated far right people. Okay. They always try to claim that the Manosphere is far right. The Manosphere does have its far right conservative people, but it also has a lot of left wing people. So I don't know where they get that from. Zeno, the mainstream misinformation on the color capsule is in high gear with the latest video. I guess the plight of white women not getting their men to bend the knee to feminism is akin to the 1965 civil rights fight. It's a little bit more than that. It's more than that. Okay. What the thing is not bending the knee. Is this men are withdrawing, and that's the problem. But we'll get into that.
CNN's Donnie O'Sullivan got in the cage with former UFC star turned podcaster Jake Shields to explore the Manosphere and why exactly it's so popular.
They speak liberal, they have liberal friends, and then they go online and they are a white supremacist.
This is Vera Papasova.
Are there white supremacists inside the Manosphere? Yes. Okay. Are there left-wing people in the Manosphere? Yes. Are there right-wing people in the Manosphere? Yes. They're all different types. Okay. They're all different types.
Spent the last year dating far-right men in New York City for a story for Cosmopolitan magazine.
They're the most insecure men I've ever sat down with. It was really difficult to have some of these dates because they were so insecure, because they don't really know who they are and they don't know how to figure that out.
She said the men she dated got all their news and information from the so-called Manosphere.
That's bullshit. That's bullshit. No, they couldn't get all their information from the Manosphere. That's bullshit.
They did not listen to anything else. They're only listening to independent media, and they're only listening to men talking to men.
The Manosphere is made up of macho podcasters and influencers.
There's no such thing as an independent female. Most women have zero concept of like money.
Females don't have independent thought.
It's a space.
Yeah, but they talk about white supremacists and stuff like that, and then they show two black guys. That's one thing they were saying. Let me be the first today to get to your taco stand, doing all that homework with your grandson. Makers a master teacher hungry. It does. We just talk. I had to pick him up from school. We were talking. He didn't have any homework today, and what he finally realized, okay, what I've been trying to tell him since he was little, okay, for the most part, I said if you learn how to read well, and you learn your math at least until trig, you really don't need much of what's in high school. Okay, everything else in high school you can learn on your own. You don't need it. I mean, anything they teach you in grade school and high school, you can pick up a couple of books and read it on your own. You don't really need to be there. I think, but one thing you did realize, it socializes you to go out into the workforce. That's one thing it does do. It gives you the how can I say it gives you the discipline to get up in the morning, go to a place, show up, take a break, go to lunch, come back, and that's what it's there for. It's actually to discipline you with the bells to either go into the workforce or the military. That's when he's starting to wake up and notice that. Even at 12, he said, "Okay, I get it now. I get what they're trying to do with us." I said, "I told you most of the stuff they give you, I could have taught you."
Space where UFC fighters are among those who reign supreme.
They love the UFC guys. They love the MMA guys because those guys do what they can. They're modern gladiators. They're badass.
Badass like Jake Shields, a former UFC star turned podcaster.
Sorry. Now I'm starting to feel nervous. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. Who I met at an MMA gym in Las Vegas.
Like all great MMA pros. I've never hit anyone in my life.
I'm not punching back. Hear me.
This is CNN. Do you miss being full-time pro? Like in terms
of, of course I miss it. To go from professional athlete, which is the highest of highs, to retirement.
I guess the
podcast has helped. You could fall into depression if you just go from the most amazing career where you're famous and spotlights to all of a sudden you're a nobody.
Sure.
Like other podcasters in the Manosphere, Jake regularly hosts controversial guests.
And I named the podcast Fighting Back. I feel like we have to fight back what we're told we're allowed to do. I just don't like to told you're not allowed to talk to this person. Like
like CNN and like MSNBC, even Fox. You can't talk to this person. They're right. Hate how she denigrates men for liking someone anyone could train it. Yep. She's and the thing is, who's she picking?
Like, why can't I talk to him? I'm not saying I agree with his ideology, but I should hear what he has to say.
He's hosted the former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan.
Today I have a very, very special guest, Dr. David Duke. I know you're controversial, but I have no idea how controversial.
And Thomas Russo, the leader of the white supremacist group Patriot Front.
And so they picked those two out of how many?
Let's go where we disagree a little bit. Yes, let's hit race, because you're a white-only group?
So the organization only allows people of American ethnicity, and all Americans, I believe, come from Europe, so they're white.
The true heirs of the American spirit fight on!
Yeah, no, I understand and talk to these guys, but I've also not brought anyone hateful. If I do, I'm going to be really on top of them.
But so you saying that you haven't brought someone hateful on, right? People say, well, you brought on the Grand Wizard of the KKK, you brought on Patriot Front.
Yeah.
They're hateful.
No, I think those are excellent questions, but people go and watch the actual interview.
Actually, Jamal Thomas, I think I played it. Where he had somebody on talking about MSNBC and CNN and how the kind of people that they brought on. I think he was talking about Joy. I think Joy Reid. I think Joy was MSNBC, and him and Joy Reid actually started together. And the reason he didn't make it is because he refused to stay on carry the company line, the company propaganda. And that's like he didn't make it, what Joy Reid did. So most of these people up there, that's why they're there, is because they buy into it.
Interviews, I think they would be like, "Oh, this guy's not near as hateful as if I expected."
But Vera says hate isn't what the men she dated were really looking for.
One of these guys brought me to a political meeting.
And did they talk about politics?
Barely. They talked about, it was a bunch of men complaining about girlfriends and wives.
Oh, like women do when they get together. Huh. Interesting.
Regurgitating Andrew Tate type of advice about how to train your girlfriend, how to train your wife to be.
Oh, like women do. Interesting. Okay, because I hear a lot of that with women, even on CNN.
Be submissive. And so this group was supposed to be a political group, but they're talking about relationship problems. And the fact that that's what most of the time was spent on, you don't need to be a neo-Nazi. You need therapy.
All right, you guys, get my likes up. Got 480 people watching. Got a little over 100 likes. Come on, y'all. If you can't give me $1, give me a like.
The appeal of Jake's podcast speaks to a need among young men in this country that Vera says can't be ignored.
You have to incentivize someone to want to be better. You can't just say, let's make men better. The thing about these guys is their biggest support system is online, but that also is very isolating, and isolation is what breeds hatred.
Groups like Patriot Front offer community, but
most of the people in Patriot Front aren't part of the Manosphere.
Community based on racism and hate.
People have to really think about, do you have the capacity to talk to people that you don't agree with?
See, this is propaganda. That's why they focus in on hate groups and white supremacy, right? Or white hate groups. Really, what two things they're trying to do: one, scare black men out of the Manosphere, which they can't, and the second thing is they're trying to scare women.
With, because that one nice conversation you might have might change someone's day enough to not have to seek out help in an online support group, which is actually a bunch of white supremacists using political beliefs as an excuse for how they feel.
How do they explain black men in the Manosphere? They haven't explained that one. Okay, how do they Andrew Tate is clearly not a white supremacist. Okay, how do they explain that?
Donny O'Sullivan is here with us now. Donny, I'm so glad you've done this special. There's so much intrigue around this issue of the Manosphere. And in fact, Trump is going to the UFC tonight. How big of a role does the sport play in the Manosphere?
Hey, Isabel. Yeah, and look, we should point out
why is MMA in UFC so important? Why are they focusing on on UFC and MMA as far as the Manosphere? Okay, we talk very little about MMA and UFC on the Manosphere.
At the start here, there's tons of guys who are fans, and some women as well, who are fans of the UFC. I have many friends who are fans of the UFC.
She raises her hand. She's fans of the UFC.
Does not mean, that if you are a fan of the UFC, you are falling sort of down this rabbit hole of hate and white supremacy and everything else. But what we are seeing is that there is this sort of there is this crossover. The UFC is playing a greater and bigger role really in American life. Joe Rogan, who's the world's biggest podcaster, is a UFC commentator. Dana White, who is the founder of the UFC, is a prominent Trump supporter and was recently appointed to the board of Meta by Mark Zuckerberg himself, another big MMA and UFC fan. And actually fighting tonight in Miami, Trump is going to the event. We're not sure if he'll be there for the earlier fights, but fighting tonight in Miami at the UFC event is a fighter by the name of Bryce Mitchell, who recently set up a podcast of his own. And on his debut episode a few months ago, he said that Hitler was a quote unquote good guy or a great guy. Dana White, the head of the UFC, was quick to condemn that, but you can
quickly condemn that. They don't want to get marked. Okay.
Kind of see there where folks who might be coming into this sport for one reason are fan of fighting, and then they're getting exposed to views like Bryce Mitchell's.
Like everybody else, okay? You see that in football. You see that in basketball. You see that in a lot of places, right? See that in a lot of places. Let's see. But this is the reason, that's the hit piece. We can all tell that's sloppy propaganda. It's very sloppy propaganda. It's very slanted. Okay, I can tell you, I've been in the Manosphere 11 years, right? Okay, are there right-wing people? Are there racist right-wing people in the Manosphere? Yes. Are they the majority of them? No. Okay. I would say the majority of the Manosphere is not right-wing. I think the majority of the Manosphere are actually centrist. They're not right-wing or left-wing. They're actually centrist. Vast majority of them. Keep doing your thing, BGS. Long time list. Hey, Alan, what's going on? Andrew Tate's dad is black. Yeah, very much so. They know Andrew Tate is black. They know Andrew Tate is black. Agent Machine says they refuse to deal with the universal issues men face. They're documented everywhere from CDC and the DOJ data to troves of news articles deliberately obtuse. Yeah, they are. MMA is filled with white supremacists. I've seen it. Okay, yeah, there's a lot of it. White supremacists. Okay. So is boxing. Okay. There's a lot of white supremacists and everything. Football. A lot of white supremacists in football. So what? Say they're trying to get their white sons back in line. you know they are. They are. There's a reason for it. And I'm getting ready to get into the next one. because this is the real reason that they're doing this. Okay, I'm going to show you because they've gotten into politics, and that's the problem. They've gotten into this. This is the real reason why it's bothering them. Okay, they were okay with it really before the Black Manosphere and the and Andrew Tate, and also the what is it, the Ice Cube effect. They didn't really give that the Manosphere that much attention. All right, but the thing is that this is PBS. A Trump success among young men illustrates the influence of the online Manosphere, and this is how long ago? 4 months ago, right? Okay. Now this is why all of a sudden CNN, MSNBC, BBC, and all these other people are actually focusing on the Manosphere now. Okay, they didn't care before. Okay, before they wouldn't talk about the Manosphere, they would talk about lonely young men. Okay, but now the Manosphere is the problem. Why? Because now we're into politics. As with all the because the PhDs that we brought in was for a reason. Okay, it's strategic. People didn't see it at the time. A lot of people fought against it. But the thing is, the way you move, you get access into politics, and I'm going to take you seriously, is to have people with letters behind their names. Okay, they can't argue with that. They can't argue with that because, like the lady said yesterday, right? The universities are a matriarchy, okay? And how do you fight? You can't fight a matriarchy from the outside. You got to do it from the inside. And black men with the PhDs, since they got nothing to lose, so they're willing to put their PhDs on the line, okay? And by them doing that, guess what? It gives the space legitimacy, okay? And basically, what the white Manosphere has borrowed that legitimacy that came from the Black Manosphere and is spread outward. Anyway. Let's show this.
This year, compared to the 2020 election, President-elect Trump made gains across almost every single demographic group. But one of the most notable shifts was among young men, who moved roughly 15 points to the right. Laura Barone-Lopez examines how Mr. Trump was able to court young men online by reaching out to them in spaces well beyond mainstream media outlets.
On the night it became clear President-elect Donald Trump won the presidency again, he was joined on stage by members of his family and several high-profile supporters.
This is karma, ladies and gentlemen. He deserves this. They deserve it as a family.
Including the CEO of
Dana White, yes.
Ultimate Fighting Championship, Dana White, who paid tribute to a group of men he believed helped sway the election.
I want to thank the Nelk Boys, Aiden Ross, Theo Vaughn, Bustle with the Boys, and last but not least, the mighty and powerful Joe Rogan.
Let me know your honest thoughts. I think it's incredible.
While those names may sound unfamiliar to some, they are all part of a growing online ecosystem that's been dubbed the Manosphere, a term loosely defined as male-centered content published on platforms like TikTok, YouTube, and the popular live streaming site for gamers, Twitch.
Yeah, gamers. Twitch is the real problem. They say now they didn't used to mention Twitch, but the thing is that's where the young boys are getting a lot of the red pill content.
It is so crooked.
During his campaign, candidate Trump saw massive untapped potential to reach young male voters by appearing on podcasts like The Joe Rogan Experience.
Kamala goes on 6.
How do you define black? How do you define black? Because they said Andrew Tate was actually on what is it? Myron's podcast, right? Fresh and Fit. When a white woman said he wasn't black, and he said, pull up a picture of my father. How do you find black? I want to hear that he ain't black shit, okay?
60 Minutes gave an answer that a child wouldn't give. It was so bad.
His 3-hour-long interview has been viewed more than 50 million times on YouTube, providing several viral moments that could then be shared in clips across all of social media.
You want to start? You go ahead.
Yeah, we're good. Are we rolling?
A strategy that Trump used repeatedly on the campaign trail.
And is that a good feeling? Well,
no.
On comedian Theo Vaughn's podcast, he discussed drug addiction.
With cocaine, more than anything else you can think of.
Cocaine will turn you into a damn owl, homie.
He danced with live streamer Aiden Ross.
You want a drink? Okay.
And joked around with online pranksters, the Nelk Boys, on his private jet.
Well, Mr. President, people surely love it.
For these online content creators, the focus often isn't politics, says internet and culture writer Joshua Citarella.
These are just general men's interests, sports, comedy, things like this, looking at pictures of attractive women. But if you dig a bit deeper into some of these communities, there are critiques about modernity, women's liberation, women joining the workforce.
Yes, that's critiques about that has been around since it started, since the 60s. It's not new, okay? It doesn't matter about ignoring the thing. It's non-white, okay? You can't be a white supremacist and be non-white, okay?
Dorella has been researching and tracking how online spaces, including the so-called Manosphere, can shape young people's political beliefs.
How young are young men, boys, when they start interacting with this kind of content?
By age 13, 14, 15, they are definitely familiar with it through memes and clips on videos. And following that, if you maintain relationships with these people, you see how their worldview evolves over that time. Those implicit ideas that they encountered years ago can later manifest and turn into something that is a real political commitment in which they may decide to vote a certain way. So those early ideas do turn out to be very impactful years later.
What is actually happening to abortion access right now in this country?
Well, Vice President Harris did repeatedly reach out to voters online, including sitting down with popular podcasters. She faced criticism for not speaking with Joe Rogan, the nation's most popular one.
Talking on a more personal level with somebody like Rogan would have voted well for her.
22-year-old Evan Jabot is a longtime Joe Rogan listener and a Trump voter. He says Trump's interview with Rogan allowed young men to see a different side of the president-elect.
I'd give an answer, which was a very good answer. I always talk about, I like to give along the weave. I like to
you like to weave things.
You can't be a black white supremacist. Okay, I don't give a shit what you say. Okay, you can't.
Yeah, but when you do,
and we got to hear a lot of stories that Trump wouldn't typically say on the road. He uses a lot of rhetoric in his rallies that you really didn't get on the podcast, and I think it was a refreshing view of Trump.
Reaching young men who often listen to podcasts and get their news from social media was a deliberate effort by the Trump campaign, says GOP digital strategist Eric.
We call people that think they're black white supremacists, we call them what? Coons.
Wilson.
They had a theory that if you watch cable news, whatever end of the political spectrum you're on,
they call them coons. Okay, they're not white supremacists. They call them coons.
You already had your mind made up about the candidates and who you were going to vote for. They went out to these platforms where people might not be as engaged in news and current events to tell them about the election, tell them about the candidate.
A recent study from the Pew Research Center found that about 4 in 10 voters under 30 regularly get their news from.
You can spew all the. It's like you being. It's like you being. It's like you being a Jew. Okay. You ain't. If you ain't that, you ain't that. You ain't that, you ain't that. Yeah, are you white or you not? What do the white supremacists say? Okay, what do they say about what do you need to be a white supremacist? What's their definition of white supremacist? It ain't being black.
From content creators.
The Republican Party and the Trump campaign put in the effort in this space.
Collaborators.
They put in the effort, and frankly, the Democrats did not.
Jeremiah Johnson is the co-founder of the Center for New Liberalism, an organization that advocates for center-left politics. He says while Harris's team dominated the campaign trail in tradition.
Why cape for the white manosphere? I don't get it. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Basically, the white manosphere, there's only one manosphere, okay? Now, there's sections of the manosphere, okay, as we call it, but there's only one manosphere, okay?
Traditional ways, including fundraising and door knocking, they made a critical mistake in not doing more online appeals to young men.
Is this your mugshot? Can you You're a gangster. This is what we're reduced to.
Especially in the podcast that young men were watching, Trump was everywhere, and these are friendly spaces.
They were actually white well before civil rights, okay? That's something that the school system did, okay? Gave them a white identity. It wasn't something that civil rights did.
For people to kind of have relaxed conversations. And more than just Donald Trump, he was also sending J.D. Vance to do these same podcasts. He was sending Elon Musk and many of his other kind of campaign representatives, and ultimately resulted in a national shift to the right politically.
I just want to.
During these interviews, President-elect Trump was rarely, if ever, fact-checked.
Hey, all right, you guys, knock it off. This is not about race, okay? This ain't about race. If you want to talk about race, pick another show. We're not going to spiral out. Stay on topic. Otherwise, I'm going to start timing people out. You made your statement about race. You want to argue about race, start up your own stream. You can argue about it till the cows come home. It's not about race. Do I make myself clear? Want to argue about race, who's white, who's black, do that shit someplace else. I mean, why are you guys here? Okay, are you guys here? Do you guys want things to change politically for men? Period. Because if they pass a law for, say, like what we want, which is paternity testing at birth, does it help black men as well as white men? Question. Crickets. If they reform the child support system, does it help white men and black men? Crickets. Black men started Passport Bros. Okay, Passport Bros used to be a completely black manosphere movement. Okay, guess what? White men, Asian men, Latino men are all in it now. It's only one manosphere. There is no expansion of manosphere because Andrew Tate and Kevin talked to white boys just like he talked to everybody else. Okay. So stop all this race talk. You want to do race talk? Go someplace else and do it.
And influencers themselves at time repeated misinformation. Their format allowed Trump to speak at length and unfiltered.
He didn't just use these platforms, but he used them well, and he understood their cultural dynamics.
Joanna Literat is an internet researcher at Columbia University and co-author of Not Your Parents' Politics. She says misinformation spreads easily on these platforms.
The transgender operations, where they're allowed to take your child when he goes.
Exactly. And liberals hate that crap too, because they're arguing about that shit right now. The liberals are having this big ass fight about this trend. In fact, there was another chick who's a feminist, okay? A feminist psychologist talked about this very goddamn thing, okay? About this very thing. There's a big fight about this trans issue, okay? Within the feminist society right now, okay? A lot of feminists do not agree with this shit. A lot of left-wing feminists do not agree with this shit.
To school and turn him into a female without parental consent.
So if you listen to his
Stuart, what did I just say? What did I just say about this black-white shit? Okay, you want to get timed out? I just asked you not to bring that shit up because it's not about that. This is not about that. I just asked you politely not to bring this shit up. Next time you guys bring this shit up, I'm gonna start having people get timed out. I don't mind you guys typing. If you do it once, it's fine. But I ask you to stop because it's gonna get out of control. Now, if you guys want to talk black, white, race, you guys can do that on somebody else's channel on your own time. Okay, I can end it now. I don't have to keep going. I was in both. The black manosphere is a section of the manosphere. Pearl uses my shit constantly, okay? A lot of shit that we say filters out into the white manosphere. I still have white manosphere people that are subs to mine, okay? So-called, okay? My MGTOW monks are still fans of mine.
Speeches or his interviews that he's done with his different podcasters and streamers, they're very incendiary, inflammatory. They can be easily packaged into bite-sized content that then can spread, sometimes can even be taken out of context.
Including, she says, content that reinforces negative stereotypes about women.
So these misogynistic messages that Trump himself often uses, that these streamers use, these podcasters use, these gamers use, they're really not only received but reinforced online. And through clicks, through likes, through shares, through comments.
But for some young men, like Evan Jabot, these spaces represent something else entirely.
I think a lot of young conservatives are having to really suppress the amount that they talk, especially in public forum spaces like on a college campus, because they're not really socially accepted.
That sentiment is what Jeremiah Johnson says Democrats urgently need to address.
Yeah, I think what Democrats
very much so. There's a lot of I played a lot of female high-ranking politicians and commentators saying exactly the same thing. Okay, they weren't addressing us, not the males, especially black males. Guess what they're doing now? Okay, we have a political voice now. We didn't have it before.
Have learned in this 2024 election is it's very, very hard to win an election with just your base. Democrats need to focus on expanding the tent, on welcoming more people into the tent, on not shaming and scolding people until they leave the tent?
But Joshua,
Basically, the feminists were saying the exact same thing. Okay, the exact same thing.
Citarella says many young men are still persuadable, and Democrats could even win back those who voted for Trump.
I've seen people change in their beliefs. The most important thing is participation in this media landscape and having a message that speaks to their experience.
I don't know why she doesn't have me on. It doesn't matter what she has me on. What's more important to you guys? I'm gonna ask this question. What's more important to you guys? Okay, me getting credit, us getting credit, or shit changing? What's more important to you guys? Do you want shit to change, or is that more, or you want credit? What's more important? Because you guys are losing. You guys losing focus on what's important. The reason we're all here is not because we want credit for the most part. We're here because we want shit to change. Because we want credit, we can do something else. Okay, I can do tech videos and make more money and have more views and get free shit. I don't need to do this. Okay, I'm here because I want to see change. And the thing is, how do viral memes spread? Is because when people steal your shit, okay, steal your shit and use it as their own. Guess what they do when they do that? They spread it. Okay, they spread it. The white boys have been stealing my shit since my third video on my MGTOW channel. That was 11 years ago. But guess what they do when they do that? They spread that shit. They spread that shit like wildfire because somebody else is going to steal it from them and use it, okay? My stuff gets stolen not only by white people, but by black people too. I can't tell you how many black people, most people have heard sign language and never knew where it came from until I played the video. So I played the clip where me and Kevin actually, I came up with it and me and Kevin actually talked about it. Nobody knew where it came from. Did I ever jump on Kevin about using it? No. Why? Because I want the shit to spread.
Experience of the world.
What's a good one?
The YMCA, man.
YMCA is the best.
That's the best one.
Still, Democrats have catching up to do in an emerging space that's already shown its power to turn out voters. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Laura Barone Lopez.
I can't ignore the. I can't. It's right in front of me. If you get on StreamYards, okay, your chat's right in front of you. And I want people to stop coming in trying to derail a chat because I'll be doing something, right? And the whole chat will be going back and forth on something else. And then people will come back and read that shit later. And stuff will come back from the chat. That's why I have to address the chat. Anyway, but the thing is, this is the reason, that's the reason why it's so important, okay? It's because it's into politics now. Now you have a voice. Now you're starting to shape policy, okay? So now they have to address you, as I thought they would. Once you get to this point, now they have to address you. That's how come you don't see any of our, basically, what's his name? Even though he's not Manosphere, he's Manosphere adjacent, okay? We've had a couple of people on Fox. We had a couple of people on Fox that would be called Black Manosphere adjacent. Policy over everything. Yep. All you guys with wrenches, you want me to ignore the chat, just time them out. If you don't like, if you want me to ignore them, time them out. Let's see, I got one more, and this I hear the Emperor from the Star Wars saying, good, the Manosphere. Yeah, the thing is, this is what we want. And MS Delta, who's in the belly of the beast, can tell you, they hear this stuff, okay? They hear this stuff. But the thing is, they don't know what to do with it. So this is their way. CNN, BBC, MSNBC, all the other mainstream media, they think they can cancel this movement, okay, and they can't. And so when they put out hit pieces like Adolescence and the hit piece like we just saw, right? They think that they're killing the movement. All they're doing is spreading it. Is David Duke a Manosphere adjacent? No, last I heard, David Duke was not part of the Manosphere, sir. fact, I never heard David Duke's name brought up in the white manosphere. So to my knowledge, I don't think so. Neither is Nick Fuentes. He's not manosphere adjacent either. In fact, I think they're anti-manosphere. Last I heard, they don't like the manosphere. Why? Because the manosphere is mixed. Now this is the real issue, right? Okay, this is actually the real issue. This is the problem. Okay, this is a problem not for just too late. The horse is out of the barn. So this is a situation where all exposure is good exposure. Yes, yes. Yeah, he is. Yes, yeah. Man, there's so many of those people you would never understand it, right? He's just honest about it. I got 653 watching. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. YouTube doesn't care which. All they want is engagement. So if you don't like it, thumbs it down. I don't care. But this one's going to be. This is like a year ago. This is also CNN, right? Why the rate of single men in the U.S. looking for dates has declined. Okay, this is, in other words, it's 2 years ago. This is actually what the MGTOWs were starting way back in 2011, right? Men pulling back, men pulling out of engagement. Okay, and nobody thought that this would actually be a thing. Okay, nobody thought this would actually be a thing. Now it is. Now before they thought it was too small and insignificant, but as it grew, because the environment was there for it to grow, now it's 60 to 70% of young men of all races, really all over the world, doing the exact same thing. Even in China, right? Jeffrey Massey with the $3, appreciate you. Did you not remember when Duke was talking to Tommy S. and Tommy mentioned child support needs to be changed, right? Okay. So Lavaris, if y'all don't hit the like button, I'm photoshopping photo of you and Nick Fuentes hugging each other. Along with, didn't Nick Fuentes and what's his name get together?
Last week, I delved here into recent data from the CDC suggesting major problems with regard to the mental health of our adolescents, surges in depression and suicidal ideation, especially
adolescents. Remember, okay, where the boys are, right?
For our girls. This week, I found cause to worry about young men. This headline from The Hill, it caught my eye. Most young men are single. Most young women are not.
In other words, but the thing is, they redefine single. Okay, single used to be either you're married or not married. Okay, now they redefined it.
The story reported that as of 2022, Pew Research Center found 30% of U.S. adults are neither married, living with a partner, nor engaged in a committed relationship. Nearly half of all young adults.
D. Brown, do you have a passport? I don't care what people on the ground say. Do you have a passport? If you got a blue passport, you're an American. Okay. If you don't believe you're American, go outside the United States and see.
Adults are single. Now, look at these numbers. 34% of women, twice as many, a whopping 63% of men. What explains that? I pulled the Pew study and I read with interest.
Let your message go viral. It is being transformed into policy. Let it flow. Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of you guys have been here for 10, 15 years, right? Y'all saw the steady progression of this message, and now it's turning into policy. And I need to get that piece right from Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back with Yoda and Luke, right? Okay. When Yoda picked up the X-wing fighter and picked it up out of the pond and put it on the ground right in front of Luke, right? Okay. And the first thing he said, I don't believe it. He said, that's why you failed. Okay, because you don't believe. Okay, if it's in front of your face, you guys still don't believe it. It's happening right now in front of your face, and CNN believes it, but you don't believe it. Why? Why? Why is that?
Turns out since 2019, the share of single men who say they're looking for dates or a relationship has declined from 61% to 50%.
Yep.
In 2018, 28% of men ages 18 to 30 reported they'd had no sex in the past year, compared with 18% of women of that age. The Hill report said men in their 20s are more likely than women in their 20s to be romantically uninvolved, sexually dormant, friendless, and lonely. They stand at the vanguard.
Friendless. Okay, how do they find there's a definition of it's one study. It's not two studies. It's one study. One study. They've been harping on this one study. I think it was 2021. Okay, right after COVID, and they've been harping on this shit for 4 years.
Vanguard of an epidemic of declining marriage, sexuality, and relationships that afflicts all of young America. Among the causes, among the factors, a reliance on social media and online porn. But also, more young women are hooking up with each other or dating and marrying slightly older men, and heterosexual women are getting more choosy. Other troubling statistics about men come from a 2021 study from the Survey Center for American Life. They found the share of men who have 6 or more close friends, which in 1990 was 55%, by 2021 had shrunk by half. Meanwhile, those with literally 0 close friends, which stood at 3% in 1990, has zoomed to 15%. An expert quoted by The Hill said this disconnect can have catastrophic consequences for young men. Quote, in the worst case scenario, the young American man's social disconnect can have tragic consequences. Young men commit suicide at 4 times the rate of young women. Younger women are largely...
And that always been the case. That's not new, okay? That's not new. That's always been the case. The responsible for the rise of mass shootings, that's bullshit, okay? That's bullshit.
Responsible for rising rates of mass shootings, a trend that some researchers link to...
That is MGTOW, MS Delta, okay? They saw it coming a long time ago. What they're describing is MGTOW.
Their growing social isolation. Well, those words reminded me of a conversation that I had over a year ago right here on CNN with NYU professor Scott Galloway.
But the issue is when you have a group of men, the lower half of attractiveness of men and online dating, which has doubled, now it's about half of relationships, and the top 20%.
And the top 20%. See the 80-20 rule that they keep saying is bullshit. He just said it.
Of men in terms of attractiveness get about 60% of the interest.
In other words, the 80-20 rule, okay? 80-20 rule. He's talking about the 80-20 rule. They're coming out of Scott Galloway, and they're blaming it on the Manosphere. Okay, he's iterating with facts and data what we've been saying all along, right?
You end up with a group of men that are more prone to conspiracy theory, more prone to misogynistic content, more prone to not believe in climate change. So this is the American story. If it's written,
he's been paid. I'm not going to say who's been paid by him because last time I said he's getting paid by, I got docked. YouTube came after me for like a whole month. So I'm not going to say who's getting paid by, but I think they took the video down too. I'm not going to say him and Reeves are getting paid by a certain female billionaire. I'm not going to say who it is.
With a pen whose ink is failing young men does not end well. This is an existential crisis, failing young men.
As always, Professor Galloway was prescient. Back with me now is Scott Galloway. He's a professor of marketing at NYU Stern School of Business. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's the host of the Professor G podcast and author of multiple best-selling books, most recently, Adrift, America in 100 Charts. Scott, thanks for returning. Hasn't the advantage always been to those with the looks and or the money? What's changed?
No, it's not. I'm not going to say who it is. It's not Mackenzie Bezos. I'm not going to say who it is because I got docked the last time.
First off, Mike, I just want to say thank you for raising this issue a year ago when a lot of media companies were afraid to talk about this for fear of it being pro-men with somehow being anti-women. Look, this is returning to the natural order of things. For the majority of history, a small percentage of men have had the majority of the mating opportunities. But in America, we decided to make a
climate change is happening, but not for the reasons that they espouse.
Huge investment in what would probably be the greatest innovation in history, and that is in the middle class. From 1945 to 1947, 7 million men returned from war were discharged from the service, and we decided to give them the GI Bill, subsidized mortgages. We saw education rates come.
Yep, Jermaine is always right. Jermaine can be right twice a day, okay? Just like a clock.
5 to 45%. They were valued, and we had such a strong manufacturing base that you had massive marriage and household formation. And some men were seen as more economically and emotionally.
It's called what? Environment. What I say about it? Environment. That is black pill logic right there, okay? Environment controlled who? The women. controls family formation. They're trying to shoehorn an old paradigm, which is marriage and a nuclear family, into a modern environment. It's not working. Instead of trying to figure out what works and working with men, they're condemning men for not holding it up. Okay. In fact, I was just listening to a feminist, right? Okay. What feminists really want, they want patriarchy with feminist specifications. Shout out to Mr. Z. Okay. That's really what they want. They want you to actually enforce rules of patriarchy in their favor. It's really what they want. Because I heard, I might play her tomorrow, okay? Because she was actually talking about pornography. She was screaming about the same thing. She wants a patriarchal like society, but with women having more rights, okay? With women having more privileges in that thing, okay? That's what she wants. They want a patriarchy. They don't want a matriarchy. They want a patriarchy with feminine specifications. That's what they want. That's their idea of the ideal matriarchy. And all he's saying, Atlas did shrug. Atlas just dumped the whole planet. That's what he just did. Okay. Atlas said, "I'm out." Okay. He put it on top of what is it? She was back. Okay. You hold it up for a second. And she's crying.
Emotionally viable. And you've seen the reverse happen with the offshoring of much of our manufacturing base, with a society that quite frankly doesn't value young men. When we talk about problems with people of color or women, we see it as a systemic societal problem. When we see problems.
Oh, the feminists went in on her, man. The white female feminists and the people trying to put in the feminist agenda, they went in on her.
Or the stats that you just mentioned, we see it as accountability, or the men just need to level up. But married households and household formation are better citizens. They vote. They save at twice the rate. They're less likely to commit crimes. And we have fewer and fewer viable men. We have a dearth of economically and emotionally viable men. But the middle class is an accident. Unless you invest in it, it doesn't happen. Eisenhower decided to invest $500 billion in a national highway project that created tons of jobs. We have, and by the way, the tax rate back then was 91%. We raised money and we redistributed in social programs that made young people more economically viable.
And then, Scott, you toss in the influence of social.
And women do want to opt out of marriage. They do want to opt out of marriage. The thing is, they want the same benefits from men without being married. Okay, that's the problem. They want the same benefits. They don't want to be married, but they want the same benefits that a married woman has.
Media and how relationships today, they don't come from, in our era, happenstance and mingling, right? They come from swiping. And that further accelerates this issue. Am I right?
Oh, it's been the chaser to it. I mean, to have an honest conversation about this, we have to be honest. And that is that men and women have different mating criteria. One quarter of men saying economic viability is a key criteria to mate. 3/4 of women say that is important. And when you're
that's true. They do say that. But now the thing is, the black women have been saying that to black men for the past 50 years, right? White men are now catching up. Now it's their problem. Now, so they actually want to do something about it.
You're on a two-dimensional format where now it's 1 and 2 relationships begin online. It used to be 1 and 4 just a few years ago. It gets distilled down to a small number of criteria. Specifically for men, it's does she look attractive? And specifically for men, is he able to signal his ability to garner resources in the future? An average attractive male on Tinder gets swiped less than 1% of the time. And there's 3 men on Tinder for every 1 woman. So you've distilled it. You've taken out one of the key components of mating,
which a lot of young men are getting off of dating apps. In fact, there's a dearth. In fact, a lot of women complain there's a dearth of men on dating apps now.
Dynamics, and that is vibe, humor, body language, pheromones, the ability to be, quite frankly, a little bit persistent in the pursuit of a romantic relationship. We have no third places anymore, no places to meet. People aren't going to bars, they aren't sports league, they aren't going to church, they aren't even going to work. So it gets distilled down to very 1 or 2 dimensional attributes. And the reality is women are much choosier than men, and they can apply those screens, and they allocate all of their attention to a small number of men.
And what small, which is the 80-20 rule, right? Go back to the 80-20 rule. Okay, which they got trashed on adolescents, right? When you talk about 80-20, got trashed, even though he's speaking facts, right?
Men, that results in just essentially at the end of the day, a lack of opportunities. Chris Williamson Chris Williams summarized it perfectly. He called it the high heels effect. In the last 40 years, more women have graduated from college than men, and they're not interested in mating with non-college graduates.
Well, they're not interested in mating with non-college graduating men, okay?
They now own more homes, single women than single men. So what you have...
They've always owned, single men don't own homes, okay? And if he does own a home, he won't be single for long. We just heard, we just played that, okay? We just played that. In fact, right after this, we're gonna play this. What's her name? In fact, I got to do a video on her, okay? Where she said exactly the same thing, okay?
Is women say they won't date anyone shorter than them, 50% of them. Effectively, what you have metaphorically over the last 40 years is women have been getting taller and taller, and men have been getting shorter and shorter. How many of us have said, I know a ton of great single women, they can't find a date? That's not true. They can't find a date. They can't find a man they find economically or emotionally viable.
Exactly. Say it again, white boy. Say it again. Say it again, white boy.
If we don't make a massive investment in young people and make more economically and emotionally viable men, we're going to see a lack of household formation. We're going to see a decline in the middle class. And we're going to see, quite frankly, just a lot of young men who are terrible citizens.
In other words, they're going to lie flat. And that's something that the congressmen are worried about. Okay. You have like 7 to 10 million men that are out of the labor force that are between the ages of 20 and 30 that they can't motivate. Okay. What happens when you have that many viable men out of the workforce? It's a problem.
So is the answer to fix this economically, and who will champion this conversation? You felt obliged to compliment me at the outset because we had engaged on this a year ago, and here I am revisiting it. And I read into that the fact that you think that
look at Nick Cannon, look at Future, look at was it Neo? Look at a whole bunch of these other cats, right? That have harems. Okay, we call them rich guys with a whole bunch of baby mamas, right? That's a harem.
Politically incorrect even to have this dialogue.
When you're seen as advocating for men because of the 300,000-year head start we've had, it seems somehow as anti-female. There's a lot of very unfortunate misogyny online that is masquerading as being pro-men. A lot of TikTok celebrities who talk about advocating for men. It's just thinly veiled misogyny. What do we need? We need more freshman seats in colleges. We need a massive investment in vocational training. We need to figure out a way to get more permitting for housing so young people can afford housing.
Yeah, we've been saying the same thing, right? The thing is, you guys are not loud enough. Okay, you're screaming about men and how lonely they are instead of what they need. What they're trying. This is basically affirmative action for white men. What's going on right now? That's what they're advocating for. They want affirmative action for white men. That's why Trump came in and eliminated DEI is because of this. Okay, eliminate DEI is affirmative action for white men.
Housing. We need to recognize our economic policies literally allocate wealth from young people to old people. The percentage of wealth that young people control under the age of 40 has been cut from 12% to 6%. These are concerted, deliberate decisions. We did away with the child tax credit. We don't want to make it any easier for people to have kids, but seniors just got their largest cost of living adjustment increase in history. We have made the decision to make it harder and more expensive for people to find each other, for people to mate, and for people to have children. And without children, we turn into Japan and Italy, and that is we go into population decline, and our economy goes into decline. We are about to become...
That's what they're afraid of. That is really what they're afraid of, okay? That young people, young men will quit and stop participating. And then that's what the women are complaining about. When they go out to date to the clubs and to the restaurants, the men aren't there. Men have dropped out. Okay, the MGTOW movement is spread throughout the whole white population. Okay.
Become a society by the turn of the century, there will be 8 times as many people over the age of 60 and half as many kids under the age of 5. Nursery schools will become these strange situations with old people staring through fences at these creatures they don't see in the wild called children. Is this the world we want? Do we want a lack of kids? Do we want a lack of ability to create households?
That's what they're afraid of. He's spitting what they're actually afraid of. They don't give a shit about men being lonely. They don't give a shit about that. What they give a shit about is men not showing up for family formation. About these bitches in their high heels not forming families, not having kids. Okay, your society is dying in front of you, faster than what they call China. Okay, China's got a better angle on it. Now, what they could do is import women for these guys, or what they could do, really, is basically set up a Asian enclave or an African enclave or a Latin enclave for old people to go down and live better lives. But nobody wants to do that. Then you open up housing and jobs and all other kind of stuff for who? Young people. They don't want to do that. There's a way out, but seeing there's a lot of people in the middle profiting off of this kind of bullshit. Anyway.
Happiest, most prosperous, most purposeful people in America are middle-class families. And we have made a concerted decision to punch it in the gut and make it harder for that type of family formation. And we're going to lose prosperity and we're going to lose purpose.
Your feminist or your feminist yesterday said the exact same thing, okay? The exact same thing that he just said, okay? In fact, there's another feminist. I might do her tomorrow. I don't know. Or I might do her on another channel. I don't know. Because she was saying the exact same thing that Scott Galloway was saying in a different way. So these are basically feminist-leaning people from the center. They're centered. Like Scott Galloway, Reeves are in the center. And the feminists are actually on the left, but they're saying the exact same thing. You have right-wing feminists. You have a right-wing feminist saying the exact same thing that we're saying, and they can't fix the problem. They try to legislate the problem by ending abortion and that kind of crap, but saying is that's not going to do any good. You're not having kids. You're not bolstering the young people up to actually keep your society going. Your society is dying, okay? Much like Korea. China's not as bad. The Koreans said, "Fuck it. We if you heifers won't get in line, start having kids. We're going to import women." So they go to Vietnam and Thailand and they bring women back. The hell with you. China's doing the same thing. You chicks don't want to get in line. You guys want to be picky on concept. Guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna get women from the outside and bring them in. That's what's happening. So if you don't want immigration, okay, if you don't want immigration, guess what you got to do? Anyhow, let me see if I can find this real quick because I had a black woman say the exact same shit that he just said, okay? About the home ownership and all that kind of crap, right? In fact, I'm going to do a standalone on this one. Should have done it already. And I think this is it was from React. See if I can find it. Let's see. Oh, wrong folder. And what this is? Sorry, is it from React? There it is. Yeah. This is called "Black Women Have Been Sugar Mamas." This is from React. This is Tesla and Figaro. Okay. And the same shit he just said about women having the most jobs and stuff like that, and homes and most education. She said the exact same shit. Okay.
A sugar mama, right?
What do you define a sugar mama though? We got to make sure.
A sugar mama.
I want you to define a sugar mama.
Is a cougar with a bag.
No, it don't have to be cougar.
Okay.
See?
Well,
a cougar and sugar mama, two different things. Right.
Okay, a woman with a bag, right?
Who's willing to share.
Who's willing to
share her resources,
and
which is all black women share. The numbers are the numbers. If black women have the most degrees, if we have the most home ownership, if we have the most.
Who does that sound like? Okay. Did he not just say the exact same shit that came out of the white man's mouth, right? Black women have been saying this shit forever, right? Now, white men and white women starting to repeat this shit, okay? Now, when it's no big deal when black men are going through this crap, right? Nobody cares, right? When white men start going to crap, the world has to stop. That's what's happening right now, okay? They're running affirmative action for white men right now because white boys are in trouble.
Education and black men who I love, I rock with, will never date outside my race. But the bottom line is the stats are the stats. It shows the less amount of degrees, the less ownership. So every black woman in her
y'all gotta get y'all money up.
We gotta stop. We gotta stop.
She is y'all gotta get y'all money up.
Episode. This is the ball.
Now, see how they simping all of a sudden? Okay, that's the problem. Now they simping.
Episode.
Yeah, whether you like it or not.
I'm looking at these statistics. Hey, brother, y'all gotta get y'all money up.
Yeah. But if you're not getting it up, who been helping your black ass? Your woman? No.
See, this is black women putting men underneath them, okay? Black women do it for a different reason, okay? For a black woman, this is the order of things, okay? With their man underneath them. So they quote these stats to put the man down, right? Basically, he quoting the stats to actually, the call to action to actually invest in white men and white boys to actually raise them back up, okay? Because white boys say, fuck it, we out. They're not going to even listen to it. We're not going to engage. We're not going to date. We out. And they're the majority of the country. So what happens when young white boys, not black, but young white boys stop participating and it starts to spread. Or even if they're working, they work less than the hours that they would if they had a family. If they don't form family. Like I said, with Generation Z of millennials, they're saying that 50% of millennials probably won't have kids. Okay? You're going to cut the birth rate in half. With Generation Z, they said over 50% of Generation Z will not have children or get married. That's a disaster for stable society. A disaster. That's what they're figuring out. It's actually a disaster. Now, what women and black women have preached, okay? Can you imagine a whole society, the whole white society, like it has the same numbers as black society? Can you imagine the white society has the same numbers as black society? What this country is going to look like? Okay, the black community is already a house on fire, really a house of ashes. The house burned down decades ago. But black women haven't realized it. They're sitting in ashes, but the thing is, they like ashes. But the thing is, imagine a whole society of a country in the same state as an African American culture. Men clowning and cackling at each other. Yeah, well, yeah, those are simps, okay? The thing is, she's saying the same thing that Scott Galloway just said.
But we got to make sure, we got to be clear. Your woman, your mama, your auntie. So the audacity to sit up here and talk about what you don't like about.
But the thing is that black women want to be in charge. Black women will be sugar mamas, okay? Black women will treat their men and their boys like kids. White women will not do that. They're not used to that.
Black women getting it when it's been a black woman that's getting it, that's been putting you in position your entire life. So when I say sugar mama, I'm not talking about I'm saying black women have been able to sustain. This is what the numbers show. To sustain.
I agree with
it's
that.
only black women. And I'm not talking about criminalizing
100%.
us. I'm talking about the whole thing. If it's a black woman put their house up to get your ass out of jail.
You see that? See that? White woman put your house up to get you out of jail, okay?
If it's a black woman helping you study at college.
See that? Helping you study at college, right?
If it's a black woman giving you your keys so you can go do your.
Giving you your keys, in other words, giving you the car so you can go to work, okay? Her car.
Job, if it's a black woman that's having your children. No, the bottom line is we have been the sugar mamas of the black community, of the culture. So for men to sit up and act like it's a bad thing when we've been holding it down, to act like it's a bad thing because we want a degree so you can focus on your trade or you can go get to act like it's a bad thing when I walk in the.
In other words, they're providing, they're trying to act like they're providing for us, okay, and they're not. That's a lie. They want to claim that they run a community and they provide for the men. In other words, you can't do what you do without them. And they make sure that you can't do what you do without them because every time that you try to, they cut the nuts off of black boys. Okay. Remember, there was a movie called Misery, right, where she got this author, right, and he had a car accident. She healed him. Okay, he was getting better. He's getting ready to leave her house. Guess what she did? She broke his ankle, so he couldn't move. He couldn't leave her. That's black women. You get better, you start getting strong, they break your ankles. Why? Because they want to make sure that you can't leave them.
Room as a virtuous woman. We got to change that conversation.
See? Doesn't that sound a lot like what Scott Galloway just said? Same shit. He's just talking about white men. When it's black men, we accept that shit. It's funny, okay? We're laughing at it. When it's white men, all of a sudden the world has to stop. But see, now white men are Negroes too. That's why when Donald Trump came in, he eliminated DEI. It's called affirmative action for white men. He heard the Manosphere, all the shit that the Manosphere was talking about. He heard. He looked at it. He said, "Okay, let's level the playing field." And it's like we have white women screaming about that. I guess I must have completely purged the winter soldiership from my system because I can't not only listen to people to these Pookie podcasts with Keisha hosts. Somebody sent it to me. The thing is, I can't listen to her for long, but the thing is, she illustrates a point on why she want to actually counter what Scott Galloway was saying with what she was saying. Okay, they're trying to get men to come back to the center. Even black women are trying to get men to come back to the center. Okay, it's like, I mean, all of a sudden the 50-50 shit is a discussion now. Before it was a hell no. Now let's talk about it. Now they're trying to talk women back into providing for you so you can do something. Okay, but this is the moment now, as they say, as Spock would say. Okay, that's why I said when DEI was eliminated. Appreciate you, Ms. Delta Dolores Claiborne. Oh yeah, yes they do. Sometimes a bitch is all you have to hold on to. Yep. Black woman equals Annie Wilkes in Misery. Yep. Yeah. Or Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, right? Which is which is Jasmine Crockett. But the thing is, with him eliminating DEI and stuff like that, basically, what did he say? Right, that Spock says. Okay.
Sauce for the goose, Mr. Savick. The odds will be even.
That's all he did when he got rid of DEI. In fact, I've seen a feminist site saying this exact same thing about DEI. A lot of your left-wing people do not like DEI. Okay, they don't. That is the centrist white female, right and left. It's not a lot left or right thing. DEI is not a left or right thing. Okay, left-wing people and right-wing females have benefited from DEI. That's why they don't want it to go away. Same thing with affirmative action. Right women have benefited from affirmative action just like left wing, right? The thing is, they can't talk about it. When Trump eliminated it, that's how come they got out on the street and started marching. Okay, it's the white women that are getting their jobs taken. That's an issue. That's an issue. Anyhow, let me get out of here. It's a new era for black men. Good luck, Keisha. Yep, that's what I say. Green said, I don't know what it's like to be bailed out of jail to borrow in a woman's car. Oh, you ain't been pookie enough, man. You ain't been pookie enough. You need to, if you haven't, then you need to be slang a little Peter a little better, man. You got to slang slang the cucumber a little better, man. If you ain't never driven a woman's car, you got to need to slang that bad boy a little bit more, okay? There was a black woman that paid $10K to get a husband. Yeah, it's that bad. It is that bad. Men are not participating anymore. Political correctness was originally a right-wing idea. Actually, it was not. If you go back to the 40s, it was actually if you could call it, it's actually a left-wing idea. Eleanor Roosevelt and Polly Murray. Got to get my Pookie XP up. You do. You can be. It depends on what she's driving, man. If she's driving something better than you. As the BGS, this is a well-orchestrated series of events. One, unleash the Manosphere, DEI removal, proliferation of nationalism, end of feminism. Feminism will die on its own, okay, because it doesn't work. And there's one thing I didn't do was go to jail, okay? You're thinking of satanic panic, maybe? What the fuck are you talking about, man? What are you smoking today? And Dingle said, okay, I already read that one. All right, you guys, let me get out of here. Never been in handcuffs? Oh, are you sure you black? You don't have to do nothing to get in handcuffs, man. Cloud Mookie for the win. Yep. And you ain't got to do nothing to be in handcuffs. I drove her car not broke. Yeah, you don't have to be broke to drive her car. In fact, that's the one reason that women will piece together, black women piece together and buy. Like my sister, her first car, my mother and her friends actually pieced together and got her a new car. Okay, because that attracts men. Women do the same shit men do, but they do it a different way, right? Women always try to attract men by getting a house and getting a car, and then offering it to them. If you be with me, you'll get this. Okay, if you be with me, I'll do this for you. Okay, if you do what I say, you get under me, this is what I'll give you. That's what she's talking about, being a sugar mommy, right? That's what she's talking about. I gotta get the whole clip though. You see exactly what went on. That's funny as hell though. Of course they morphed it with things. It's a political. It's actually a tool. They call it elite capture. Okay, a tool that works will be actually adopted by the left and right. Okay, it's called identity politics. She definitely was trying to have full. Oh yeah. That's why they want you to move into their house so they can have control. What do black women want? Like Janet Jackson said, control, right? They want control. Black Chad is Tyrone, or Pookie, or whatever. I'm getting shadow ban is full effect. I'm getting 0 notification for you or Dr. T. Oh yeah, that's been the case, man. That's why I try to have it a consistent time so people know when to look for me. And that's worked out because if I'm all over the place, people won't show up. Robin Givens, Boomerang, yep. BJ Moore, that's a weekly thing with my father in the DMV. He got a rich one. She said she would buy him the Corvette if he marries her. LOL. She got acres too. Yep. Either we move together or not at all. Either we move together or guess what? We're going to block you. And that's what they did. Okay. All Malik is an incense smelling, incense burning, African oil wearing, dreadhead with a dashiki. That's a Pookie. That's pro black Pookie is a Malik. That's a Malik. Okay. Anyhow, let me get out of here, y'all. I will see you guys tomorrow. I don't know what I'll come up with tomorrow, but there's a bunch of stuff I could come up with, but we'll check it out tomorrow. Anyhow, y'all, let me get out of here.
What can I say? Mamba out.
Muzyka Denis Siedem.